Everywhere around the West, immigration has become a massive issue and a threat, seen as a threat by many voters. Now, you see Donald Trump, he actually won the US election, in my opinion, because Joe Biden led in more than 8 million illegal immigrants. In France last weekend, we saw more mass riots by mobs that seem to include many people from immigrant communities. That country's being torn apart. And in Britain, the Labour government is under huge pressure after a record 1,200 illegal immigrants arrived last Saturday. And Nigel Farage, leader of the anti-immigration Reform Party, he's leading Labour and the Conservatives both in the polls. Now, in the Netherlands, Geert Wilders, some call him Holland's Donald Trump. He was the biggest winner at the last election. He has pulled this party out of the governing coalition. There were 3 other parties in it, and he's caused that government to fall. And he blames the other parties in his coalition for not agreeing to his radical plan to slash immigration from the third world, to effectively suspend the national asylum system, to pause family reunions for refugees, to send back all Syrian nationals, and to militarise the Dutch borders.
I signed for the strictest asylum policy, not for the downfall of the Netherlands.
Joining me from Amsterdam is Dutch Senator Annabel Nanninga, co-founder of the Conservative Liberal Party JA21. Annabel, always great to see you. Why is immigration such a big issue?
Great to see you too, Andrew. Well, as you explained previously, these are mostly immigrants from a culture that clashes with the Dutch or European or Western culture. Oftentimes they even despise it. You know, they try to impose their own culture and cultural practices on our society, making them less safe, less free, less liberal. So obviously that's a problem. It's also a problem for our social security system on which those so-called refugees rely heavily. And it's a big, big problem because we have a huge housing crisis in the Netherlands. Nobody can find a place to live. And well, with an influx of a small Dutch city per year, it's just not feasible anymore to keep up this level of immigration.
I've seen people complain that they've had to move out of their house to make way for asylum seekers. It's just incredible. Why does Geert Wilders want an election when his party is already part of the government?
Well, not only that, his party has the Minister of Asylum and Immigration. They had the tools to do something about it now. I mean, he had a golden ticket. This is a right-wing coalition with only right-wing parties. And to be fair, I do respect Mr. Wilders and his efforts for our country, but this seems to be an opportunistic move. His polls were slipping, the focus was getting more on the war in Ukraine, on our continent, and therefore he decided to make a brash move. But what he has done effectively, I think, is he handed the nation's government on a silver platter to the left and centre parties, because he will no longer be in government, I think, after the next election. And then we cannot realize all these fantastic points that we have in our party program as well. You know, no family reunion, a stop on immigration. We agree with that. We support it. He had the chance, and I think he blew it. I think it's irresponsible what he did.
But the thing is, too, that he thinks, and quite rightly, that making these sounds will make him a little more popular than he was becoming. And we've seen that around Europe. We've seen it in Germany, we've seen it in Italy, Britain, Sweden, Ireland, France, Portugal, others I could mention, the Netherlands, of course. Immigration is a huge issue politically. How did it get to this point where it's almost explosive in that regard?
Well, because it's difficult to tackle. And what he is confronted with now is that it's easy to, you know, just get in front of a camera and say, I'm going to close all borders. But then you have to do the political handiwork. You have to go to Europe, to the EU, to change the rules there, to change international agreements that we made. So it's not that easy. And of course, it's a big issue because, as you showed us before on this segment, the whole of Europe is you know, rioting, terror attacks, Islamization. There needs to be a stop to it. But especially in the Netherlands, we have a coalition government. You need more parties to govern. It's just not just one candidate that can do what he or she wants, that can push their agenda. So you have to be able to cooperate. And then, well, sometimes it's a little more tricky to find your way to together make this possible. And there were also, of course, in government, some right-wing parties that were a bit more squeamish about measures that need to be taken. But it's a fact that if we don't in Europe curb this mass immigration, this uncontrolled non-Western immigration, we will suffer for it economically, culturally, and in terms of law and order.
Just look at France right now. Annabel, Nanninga, thank you so much indeed for your time. Really appreciate it.